One of the biggest issues I've seen over the past few years in different leadership positions has been guys struggling with confidence, right? As I was captain of the soccer team, when I ran my door-to-door sales team, even as I've been a coach with my clients and doing performance coaching, I've noticed that confidence has been such a big issue. Now, for me personally, I struggled with lack of confidence for about 10 years of my life. Like, I used to really want to play soccer in college. And I was so insecure about what other people thought about me, even though I was good, even though I had all of these accomplishments, that I didn't go to any of the Division I, Division II soccer camps. I didn't go to any of the showcases. I quit playing club soccer, all of these things, simply due to my lack of confidence, right? And this affected me in a lot of other areas of my life. And what lack of confidence typically causes is just a low drive to do the things that you really want to do. And a lot of times you genuinely have the skills to do these things. Like, you'll always hear people telling you how good at something you are or how you're naturally gifted in this realm. But deep down, you won't feel the same way, right? Even if you're getting the results, you will lack this confidence and it'll stop you from doing the things that you love. And so today I'm gonna show you how to actually manufacture confidence in your subconscious mind, which is the root of everything else. I actually learned about this when I was doing my sales job. I got privately mentored by one of Carl Jung's old students. Spent about $45,000, $50,000 of my personal income to do this, just because I realized it was the source to all things, right? Like, everything in the mind determines everything that you get in your life. And so I was determined to not only figure out how to conquer my own mind and maximize my own potential, but help other people do the same. And so by the end of this video, not only will you be able to dig up the reason as to why you're lacking confidence, but also a framework on how to apply this in your own life and manufacture that for yourself on the spot, not only for you, but other people that you care about in your life. Maybe you hold a leadership position for a sports team, a sales company, a business, a corporate job, whatever it may be. You can help people around you build confidence by using this framework. And so before we actually get into why you're struggling with confidence and how to manufacture it, we have to identify what confidence really is. And I've identified a 3-part answer to this that I've found to be the most accurate representation of true self-confidence. So the first part of this is calm certainty, right? Now, a lot of people think that, like, being super confident has something to do with pride or being cocky or showing off. That is completely incorrect. Being confident and true confidence, right? Like, most people who are like really cocky are not that confident because they're trying to get approval, but we'll get to that later. But true confidence is calm certainty in your ability to achieve great things, regardless of the situation, regardless of how much fear you may have, regardless of how intense or high pressure the environment or situation you're trying to dive into is, right? It's this calm certainty within yourself. Second part of this is flow state. Now, what is flow state? I talk about this in one of my latest videos. Go watch it if you haven't. It's about 15 minutes. Flow state is being able to dial in on one thing and one thing only without having to worry about any sort of distractions, any sort of mental bullshit going on, any sort of things that will get you in the way of performing at the highest level. That is flow state, performing on one thing at the highest level. So we have calm certainty, flow state. Now, the third one's probably the most important one, self to self, right? Why? Well, a lot of people think that confidence comes from getting a certain result. Like, once I achieve this thing, I'll start feeling confident. Once I get the girl, once I win the game, once I make this amount of money, I'll feel confident. That is very far from the truth, right? True confidence is self to self. No matter what you experience, no matter what physical event, what physical setback takes place in your life, you should still have bulletproof confidence, right? True confidence is self-initiated, self-maintained, and bulletproof, regardless of what the fuck happens in your life, okay? And this is the big one that most people mess up. Now, why is that? Because people outsource their identity to other things, right? So usually it's performance-based. So for sports, business, or even, validation based, like women, all of these things, right? That's a type of performance, I suppose. But they outsource their identity. The things that they accomplish, the physical things of life, dictate how they view themselves, right? So it's like, unless I get this result, I'm not good enough. Or until I get this girl, I'm not worthy, or I'm not confident, or I'm not good looking, whatever it may be. They outsource their identity. And this showed up a lot on my door-to-door sales team, right? So before I started learning about all of this stuff, learning about the subconscious mind, my guys would continuously struggle with inconsistent performance on the doors. And I couldn't really figure out what the actual issue was. Their sales pitch was good. They were pretty dialed in on their diet, their habits, all of these things. But no matter what they did, they couldn't sell. Right? Like they just weren't getting good results. And after finally realizing this, I came to find out that it wasn't the fact that they didn't have the skills to succeed. It was simply due to the fact that they had a lack of self-confidence and that energy was being transferred to customers on the door. Right? So when you're communicating with people, you subconsciously project your internal dialogue, your internal thought process onto other people. And so what they end up doing is they mirror that back to you. And so if you're trying to sell something door to door, right? Just imagine this for a second. If you're trying to sell something door to door and you go up and you're like, hey, my name, no. Like you don't believe that you're going to get the sale, the customer is going to subconsciously mirror that lack of confidence back to you, their lack of confidence in you, in your product, right? And so I realized this, and I realized that the reason my guys weren't feeling confident is because they were letting the amount of deals that they got dictate who they viewed themselves to be, right? They were outsourcing their identity. Well, why do people do that? Okay, let's talk about it. Why do people outsource their identity? Why do people need certain things to feel good about themselves? External validation, external pleasure, all of these things. Why? Right? Let's talk about it. So a lot of times like people think it's just a fear, like their fear of failure is like a huge one that I always hear. Fear of not being accepted, fear of not being worthy, like all of these things. But usually there's some shame there too. But fear and shame and any other negative emotion are just like byproducts of something much deeper. So let's talk about it. Where do these two things come from, right? Where do fear, shame, guilt, depression, anxiety, where do all these things come from? Limiting beliefs. Now, what is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is something we consistently tell ourselves that stops us from achieving what we want, right? Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm incapable. Like, all of these things are limiting beliefs. Now, where do limiting beliefs stem from? Okay, past experiences, right? So our subconscious mind processes millions and millions of bits of information per second. So whether we realize it or not, we've developed all of these beliefs about ourselves based on all of our lived experiences. These can be good, these can be bad, these can be things that we've consumed, these can be experiences that we've watched played out with people that we don't even know. Like, all of these things dictate the way that we think about ourselves. So for me personally, I always struggled with confidence because I got bullied in middle school, right? I got bullied for the way that I looked. I got bullied for my acne. I had really bad acne at the time, right? So all of these things deteriorated my self-confidence. And so I didn't think I was worthy, right? I didn't think I was good enough. And these were examples of limiting beliefs. Not good enough, right? That was the big one that I told myself. And that carried with me for years of my life. So like when I was on the soccer field, for example, even though I was really good at fucking soccer, in my mind, I had this fear of not being worthy, this fear of not being good enough. And so I was very, very insecure as to what other people would think about me, simply due to like one experience in my life. And that played out for a very long time. And I lacked confidence because of that, because I didn't have certainty, I wasn't in flow state, and it wasn't self to self because I was afraid of being judged, and other people's validation was the source of my confidence. You see the gap there? That's the biggest issue at hand. And just for reference, it doesn't have to be like some big experience that you've faced. It doesn't have to be like some crazy trauma or, getting bullied. Like, that doesn't have to be the case for you to have these limiting beliefs. It could be one very, very small event that took place that formed the way that you perceive yourself and limit yourself on a day-to-day basis, okay? And so the only way to kind of identify what's actually holding us back is to understand the root cause, right? Understand the thing that kind of dictates the way that we view ourselves and understand what has caused us to have these limiting beliefs in the first place. And I talk about it a bunch in my other videos, but I'll just give you a quick example on how to kind of tackle that, right? You wanna think about your fear as like a branch of the tree, right? So let's see. Fear is like a branch, excuse my drawings. It's like a branch of the tree, right? So you want to identify your fear, right? Like what you're afraid of, what's stopping you from feeling confident in what you're doing. And then you slowly want to go down to the other branches, slowly go down the trunk, and think about all the things that led up to this fear being so prevalent in your life. And then once you can get to the very, very first thing, you've identified the root. And the reason why it's so important to identify the root, right? Like sometimes it's stuck in your subconscious mind, you're not even aware of what it is. That's like a 6-hour one-on-one process we can do. Feel free to like DM me. But most of the time, you can identify it by following this process or watching my other videos for free. So the reason why it's so important though, is because if you don't know the reason why you're actually acting and believing the things that you are, there's no way to kind of heal from those, come to completion with those, like understand those things outside of self. Like we think that this is just how we are, but once we can understand the root of our actual issue, we realize, hey, this isn't who I am, or it doesn't have to be who I am. It's simply an event that has caused me to believe a certain thing about myself. And so it's very important that you do this before you try to tackle the actual framework, because if you don't actually identify the root and you kind of just try to do all of these things, it's gonna be very, very challenging for it to stick long term. And so once you've identified the actual root as to why you're outsourcing your identity, why you're not self to self, and why you're struggling with confidence, we can begin this process called neuroplasticity. Right? Now, what is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is rewiring your brain to become a different person through repeated action, okay? So in simple terms, that's changing your identity, creating your identity. If you don't know who you are, you can create who you want to be, right? And so through neuroplasticity, you actually live out that identity, which creates new beliefs in your mind, which therefore help you achieve your goals, confidence, whatever else you want in your life, right? Okay, so we're gonna focus in on this. Now, when it comes to creating your new identity or realigning with your old one, there's 5 questions you wanna ask yourself. Who, what, where, how, and why, okay? So who do you wanna become, right, is the very first answer. If you don't know who you wanna become, watch one of my other videos on like aligning with your authentic self. You can identify like your natural gifts and your acquired skills and like what you actually want with your life, because that's very important. But who do you want to become, right? And you have to be honest with yourself. This is not something where you're like, well, my parents want me to be this way, or my coach wants me to be this way, or my boss or society wants me to be. No, who do you actually want to be, right? Who do you want to become, okay? Think about that. Take some time to actually write it out in detail. And when I say who, I'm talking about like the type of person you want to become, like the traits of that person, maybe the way they act, like all of those things. Get into very, very descriptive detail on who you want to become. The second one is what? Like, what are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? You've identified like who you want to become, but what are you going to do daily, right? What's your day-to-day going to look like? What's your house going to look like? What's your, room gonna look like, or your routine gonna look like all of these things. What? And we got where, right? Like, where do you want this to take place? Where are you gonna live? Where's your family going to go out to, all of these things, right? Like, where? And then the next one is how, right? How are we gonna do that? Now, a lot of times it seems very, very far away, like who we wanna become may not be, for a few years or even more than that, right? And so how we're gonna do that may seem challenging to kind of fathom. I want you to kind of reverse engineer, like maybe you have this 10-year goal, make it like a 5-year and then a 1-year, and slowly reverse engineer it back to your day-to-day habits, right? And then you can build a system of like things that you can do every single day, needle moving tasks to kind of get you closer to becoming that person over time. So how are you actually going to do this and make it make sense to where you are currently at in your life? And then the most important one is why. Like, why do you actually want to become this person? For what? For what purpose, right? You have to actually answer this honestly, because if you're not actually aligned with, why you want to become this person and the person you actually want to become, it's going to be very, very difficult to stay consistent on your how, right? On the process to becoming that person. So remember your why, okay? Super, super important. And if you get to this section and you don't know your why, maybe you have to revisit the who and get aligned there, okay? But here's the thing, like, you'll have this daily system in place, you'll have this roadmap of who you want to become, but it's not going to be easy. You're probably going to have to do things that you're not doing right now to get there, right? You're probably gonna have to put yourself out of your comfort zone. You're gonna have to choose your hard, right? It's not your fault that your brain's been conditioned to think this way, but it is your fault if you don't do anything about it, right? The results you get after watching this video are completely your fault and your responsibility. You have the ability to change. You have the ability to, choose your hard and choose your battle, whether you're gonna do the uncomfortable thing or not. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to you. And so the reason why this is so important and the reason why choosing your hard is so important is because when we start doing things that force us out of our comfort zone and when we start acting aligned with the person we want to become, we naturally stop outsourcing our identity with performance. We start sourcing our identity to ourselves and to the process, right? Like if you're doing things that you know will get you to your future self every single day, you're naturally going to build confidence because you're actually doing the things that you know will get you to where you want to be, right? And these have to be self to self, right? These can't be like, oh, like if I make this amount of, no, it has to be things that you can control every single day. But as long as those things are aligned with the person you want to be, you are naturally going to create a rock solid self to self identity that will allow you to have flow state and calm certainty whenever the fuck you want, right? You'll be able to manufacture that. But the thing is it's like, until you can do this, you're never going to get out of this, right? That's the hard truth. And I personally struggled with this too. Like it took me a while to face my fears to try new things or, maybe get judged. Like I would have never posted videos on social media 2 years ago, right? Because I was worried about what people thought about me. But it's like, when you come to understand that like as long as you're doing the things that will get you to where you want to be, failure is impossible unless you quit, you'll realize, hey, all of the people that are judging me, are not people I want to be around, or they are projecting their own insecurities. All failure is just data that will show me how to get better the next time. As long as I don't quit, it is impossible that I don't grow as a human being, grow mentally, grow spiritually, whatever it may be. And so therefore, you'll feel proud about yourself when you go to sleep at night, and you'll develop self-confidence because you are becoming a new person. You are identifying with yourself instead of external things. You are going through neuroplasticity, and you are becoming unrecognizable to the person that struggled with confidence for years, the person that was outsourcing their identity for years, the person that was going through fear, shame, battling their limiting beliefs, battling their past traumas, all of these things. You are better than that, and you are conquering that, okay? But it's not easy, and you have to identify what you actually want, otherwise you'll never actually take action. And I have a video about being aligned and identifying your authentic self, which is really, really important. Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to consistently do the work because you won't actually care, right? But once you can do that, once you can go through the neuroplasticity process and stay consistent, you will find what you're looking for. And I say this because I lived it, right? Like I have been there. I have struggled with the confidence. I have hated the person that I looked at in the mirror in the morning. I have hated the way I felt about my daily actions when I go to sleep. Like all of these things. I have experienced it, right? It stopped me from doing so much of my life, but I've been able to break free from that, okay? But you have to do the work. If this was helpful, please drop a like down below, subscribe, completely free for you, helps me out a lot. Feel free to get in contact with me, book a call down below if you wanna work together one-on-one, or follow my Instagram. I'm posting my 70.3 prep, scaling my business, becoming the best version of myself, all of these things, using these tools on a day-to-day basis. More videos to come. Hope you enjoyed. Please do the fucking work. Otherwise, there is zero point in watching this video. If you don't have notes written, you should probably go back and fucking rewatch this shit. But otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.